Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smoking techs, electric smokers, feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Thank you, fellows, for that nice introduction, and it is Campfire Talk time with Mr. Larry Weishuhn, who is standing by. Good morning to you, Mr. Weishuhn.
Well, top of the morning to you and everybody else that's out there, and our top of the afternoon, depending on whether you listen to this or you listen to our podcast. But, you know, we need to thank DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable stealth vision put together there in Crockett, Texas, just down the road from Luke Clayton a little way. Some of the finest optics to be found anywhere. And Vineyard Max, not very far from where Luke Clayton lives as well, too. The best deer attractant there is in the world, and it's good for deer as well too. And of course they make some outstanding feeders and a few other items as well too. And then I know I like to shoot the Mossberg rifles. I've got a bunch of them, and then too, I love handgun hunting, and for the last bunch of years here now, I've been using the Taurus Raging Hunters, very, very accurate guns. And all that said, Luke, we're in the beginning of all the hunting seasons. A lot of things going on. I've been to Maine, had a great hunt up there. You and I are about to get together not too long from now to be on the Choctaw and all those other kind of things going on. But, we want to tell some of those stories a little bit later on. You and I both love to write. You and I both love to read. And I got a feeling a lot of folks out there that are listening to us love to do some of the same things. And I just thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about some of that this morning.
Let's do it, yeah.
There's some real good publications out there still. And, I hate to see that the fact that the Outdoor Life Field and Stream, thank God, has come back in a different form. Sports and Field is still out there. I've actually just got an assignment to do a piece on hunting black bear for Sporting Sports at Field, and then of course Sporting Classics magazine. And you and I both have written a fair amount in the past for Sporting Classics Daily, and all those are absolutely great publications. But there's another one that's out there right now that I'd really like to make people aware of, and I bring this up because you and I are both writing for them right now. It's called Life and Land. Mr. Kelly Reeves is the editor, and it's put together there in Tyler, Texas. But it is an absolutely fantastic publication. It's available several different ways, including, I'm sure online, and you can subscribe to it. But it's also in a lot of the bookstores, which is pretty darn good these days.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yes, it is. It's a good magazine, and I don't know. I gravitate to outdoor magazines. It's got, real world stuff in it, and that one
Absolutely.
does. I mean, it's got practical stories, and you can read one of these stories and articles, and there are many in each issue. You and I do. I've got one on the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up there on the current one, Larry, and yours is an awesome one. They even have a way that folks can find our books in there, and I'm going to throw a little plug in, by golly, but it's just a good practical, what I call a practical magazine with stuff that really people that hunt and fish. I'm sure anybody could relate to the things that are published there, Larry. So it's a magazine that I'm sure many people listening to our podcast probably haven't heard about it. That's okay. But a lot of what you and I do is try to introduce people to fun stuff and Life and Land. That's one they need to know about,
It really is. I'm very impressed. Like you, I've been writing for a long, long time, and I've written for a gosh off number of publications. And I really like publications such as this. It's somewhat regional, but it's not. You know, there's a story in there. Of course, you mentioned Chaka Hunting Lodge and hunting up there, and in your article, and it's all about that area right there. And mine is hunting primarily with David and Mr. Edgar Cotton for a deer that I call the never give up buck. And I don't really name deer very often, and didn't name this deer until after David finally shot him. But
right.
there's lots of good stories in there and lots of good sound information. You know, when I was a kid growing up, catalpa worms were the choice of a lot of the big time catfish that fish the Colorado River and Cummins Creek and some of those places that I grew up. And there's even an article in there about the southern catalpa tree this time. Really impressed the daylights out of me because I didn't think people would even remember it anymore.
Yeah, people, you know, those worms, catalpa worms, are not out for a long time. I mean, that larva thing stage happens for, I think, a couple of weeks, and it's done. But when I was a boy, used to pick those up. It seemed like there were a lot more catawba trees around back then, and freeze them. No kidding. I mean, we had a freezer back in the '60s there, and my dad, you know, big cat fisherman, and freeze those things. And I haven't done that since I was a boy. But those catawba worms, they are awesome. You know, Larry. Another, back to the outdoor reading thing, the oldest and one of the best, I will say that, outdoor publications national in the country is Fur Fish Game.
Yes.
Fur Fish and Game magazine. It's been around for this. They just celebrated their 100th year of continuous operation. It's a unique magazine because you're talking about tips and practical things. They don't care about, you know, they actually, I've written for that publication a long time, 35 years often, you know, few articles each year. They want to know what the writer experiences and what he or she has learned. They could care less about the glitz and glamour. They want to know the facts. And so that's a magazine that it's probably in its heyday right now, honestly, because I've talked to the editor and the subscriptions are strong and it's growing. But I had an article in the October issue about deer hunting then, back in the day when I was a boy, when you were a boy, and now. And that's that kind of stuff. And trapping, you know, I don't trap anymore. I used to. I trap a few hogs. You and I trap a few hogs.
Yeah, we have.
I'm bringing that old trap back from folks. I'm changing topics real quick, but I've got an aluminum trap a company down in Florida sent me 10 or 12 years ago. Weighs 53 pounds, and it's stock aluminum, you know, aluminum bars made out of. And I've left it down at Larry and Jeff and I. It's a comical. I've watched it 1,000 times. A comical deal we filmed. We trapped. Was it four hogs in there? Wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Four pigs, and it's on A Sportsman's Life. I don't remember which issue, but anyway, I'm bringing that trap back here to the house. And my friend, the farmer rancher guy, a buddy of mine, that's a preacher there. He lets me hunt and fish on his place. And he said, "You doing any trapping?" I said, "Well, no, I just shoot the hogs, you know, at night with the thermal, whatever." He says, "Well, I sure wish you could trap." So I said, "I'm going to start removing some for trapping." So, but we can pick some pork on that, you know, choice hogs to eat. But you and I have trapped them together. You know, so we've done a little trapping together, right?
Yes, we have. You know, of course, you and I grew up out in the country, and trapping way back when was, you know, kind of a part of life kind of thing, something you did regardless.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, times have changed, and I wish we'd go back to some of those days, quite frankly, because there's nothing out there that's really controlling some of the predators, such as coons are a huge predator on a lot of different predators, as of course are fox and coyotes and bobcats kind of thing. But you know, it's fun, and when you trap, you learn a lot. And the traps that they have these days, these days are pretty much humane when you get right down to it as well too. So, you're killing the animal. You're not really hurting that animal like they may have done many, many years ago. But anyway, I want to go back to the Life and Land thing.
Yes.
If people are interested, they can go to lifeandlandmagazine.com. And you mentioned fur, fish, and game. Just if you got to Google any kind of machine that you can Google on, just type in fur, fish, and game and see what comes up, because that's another one of those publications. As you mentioned, Luke, you've written for it a long time. There's so much good, sound, practical advice about hunting and about fishing and in the outdoors in that publication. They really pride themselves, and rightfully so, of that's what they do.
That's right, Larry. It's called actually the magazine for the practical outdoorsman. That's the term that's been used to describe it for years and years. A lot of people, I'm sure most people listening to us, Larry, they're probably many rabid hunters and fishermen listening, but they don't do exactly what we do. When we hunt and fish, it's become second nature to me. I'm thinking about an article, and that's not just I'd be doing it if I never wrote an article. I would be hunting and fishing. You would too.
Exactly.
But it's a thought. It's something that kind of gets ingrained in your brain. You're out there and you're thinking. Half the time, I will honestly mull over or write a story or the outline of a story, how I want it to unfold, and sometimes it does, and sometimes you have to change things up. But it's a big part of my life. I thoroughly enjoy that aspect of what I do, and I know you do, Larry.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, sir. And we've got a bunch of hunts coming up here, and you and I doing together. We mentioned the whitetail season opening up in Texas. The MLD season's already open. The archery seasons are open a lot of different places. A lot of folks have been elk hunting and mule deer hunting and all those other kind of things. But we got a lot of great whitetail deer hunting coming up here before.
That's right.
Before I start pulling out my rattling horns, and we'll be getting after some of those deer up in the northern part of the state of Texas. And who knows? I mean, I may drift over to Oklahoma and see if we can do some good up there as well too.
We will, Larry. Well, we are absolutely out of time, but it's been 18 years now that you and I have been together here on Campfire Talk. It's always our first segment here on Catfish Radio, and it's grown a bunch. I've watched it, and I went into the podcast. We took it to the podcast here. I don't know, a year ago. Mr. Dustin Warncke's helped a lot. He's what I call a guru when it comes to anything computer related, But
yes, sir.
Yeah, so now Catfish Radio, after all these great radio stations run it, becomes a podcast. Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends. You can click on that, and I find myself, after I've heard it on the radio, even after doing it, riding down the road listening to it again, Larry.
Absolutely. That's when I have a chance to listen to it, and I think a lot of other folks do as well, and we truly appreciate them listening, not only on the radio, and I truly appreciate all the great stations, but also thank you for listening to us on the podcast and watching Irish Sportsman's Live.
Larry, thanks again for being with us, and we will join forces next week and visit with everyone again. How about that?
Yes, sir.
Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, I want to introduce you to Vineyard Max. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weishuhn, and We were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, Vineyard Max has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smoking Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time. Ultramatic feeders. I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw. Well, friends, I do hope you enjoyed the little visit with Mr. Weishuhn, Campfire Talk. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up, and some of it we told you about, what we didn't tell you about. I bet we have time next week to do that. We have a special guest, a special friend, Mr. Dustin Warncke. We're going to talk about some Texas Hill Country stuff. We're going to talk about some German folk. By the way, Dustin is German. He's directly descended from the German folks that came over in the 1800s and landed on a little island there called the Port of Indianola. Dustin, thank you, buddy, for being with us. I'm ready to learn some stuff.
I am so excited to be with you, especially as we get, bow season like in full swing this month. So much great things going on with the leaves changing and fall, cooler weather and everything. It's beautiful.
We've got people listening on the radio all over, and then I always want to thank the radio station owners. There's a lot of them, but I also want to remind people that you folks are listening as a podcast all over. Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends. So here's the deal. So your descendants came over to, I think it was a place that a hurricane wiped it out right in the mid-Texas coast, and it was called the Port of Indianola, right?
Yes, and you can look this up on Wikipedia.
Yep.
Learn all about the port that's underwater.
And I just remember from my geography, or from your history, I guess, Texas history, the name Indianola. And you brought it to my forefront there. So that's your forefathers, let's say, came over there, and then by ox cart, horse mule, whatever, they came on in, and that's a lot of Germans, including a lot of your family, from the Texas Hill Country, still to this day, right? That's where a lot of them settled.
Correct. So you have the German settlers, and then another one I'll just throw in here is what they call the cedar choppers. They came from the Appalachian Mountains and settled in parts of the Hill Country as well and brought their traditions. There's still a lot of the remnants of that in our area here in my part of Texas.
Yes, sir. They call them the cedar choppers. I guess they made a lot of the log cabins and stuff with the cedar.
There's everything out of cedars that they just found down here. They came down here. You talk about just like the German settlers, hardcore people as far as like just rough living and just tough as nails, and that's a lot of my family members hail from that kind of grit, if you will, that kind of gumption.
They would have to be back in those days. I've often thought, how tough would you have to be? I mean, I was born in 1950, so I remember sometimes, we didn't have a telephone until I was 13. I know that's hard for people to believe, but it's the truth. I remember second grade, our teacher, they actually heated the room with a wood burning stove, and they used a lot of coal. Yes. The big schoolhouse had some kind of heat, but this one was like a portable building, and with a wood stove. But So the traditions, a lot of that, and I know Dustin pretty well. We've spent a lot of time. We've talked together a lot, and been together some. But a lot of those traditions, kind of trickle down. I'm not saying that you're out there, doing all the things they did back in the 1800s, but for instance, some of the food, hog's head cheese. I think some people call that scrapple. But the Germans, they had you've told me is a different name for that.
So it's different than hog's head cheese, which is a German original. That's more of a gelatinous, kind of thing you slice up and put on bread. I ate a bunch of that growing up.
You did? Yeah.
Yes. So what I'm talking about here is called panis, also called scrapple. And the joke is that I think we've talked about it in our last segment together is everything but the squeal, right? So they didn't let anything go to waste, much like, they're very resourceful people back then. Everybody was, the cedar choppers, the German immigrants, everybody. And so the idea is to take that trim, that extra stuff, the grind stuff that you're not making sausage into, and, mince it up. And put it in kind of a cornmeal mush, let's call it, okay?
Yeah.
And then the basic way that this is made, it takes a while to make, and you've got to stir and stir and stir until your hand darn near falls off. Now, that may sound, oh, gosh, that's a lot of work. No, it doesn't take that long. So imagine that you just start a pot with some chicken broth or beef broth, and you put in, kind of some cornmeal, some flour, kind of in a different ratio mixture, and then mixing your meat. It can be already cooked. That's what I usually use, is just even old barbecue meat. If I've got a hog leg or something like that, like a hog quarter, and I want to just cut it up and just put whatever scrap it is already cooked, it works perfect in there. And you also get the smoky flavor from the barbecue if you use something even like brisket or something like that's domesticated and not wild.
Yep. That sounds good. I mean, you could take, just say, for instance, that you cooked a wild pork ham, or just say the ham meat of a barbecued, not, it's not cured. It's just smoked till it's real tender, fall off the bone. You could, I guess you're talking about, maybe you could chop that up, right? You cut it up where it's not stringy.
Kind of mince it up. Like where it's edible. Kind of like dice it up a little bit.
And throw it in there with the cornmeal and the flour, and stir it in. I guess there's got to be some secret spices and stuff you can add.
Absolutely.
Right?
And really, the fun thing about this is you can make it however you want to make it and season it however you want to season it. So usually seasonings that are appropriate for this would be like your garlic powder, salt, pepper, just anything you like to have. You can make this spicy. It's just an open palette. So it's a canvas of flavors you can put in with this. So once you have your mixture going, you're stirring and stirring until it starts pulling away from, this is very important now, pulling away from the sides of the pot that you're using. Okay, so this could be any kind of soup pot or anything like that you can use, even one of your Dutch kettles or something like this, right? So you're basically just stirring and stirring until that becomes more of like a solid, or at least like kind of a mushy mixture. Are you with me so far?
I think so. In other words, like a big, for lack of a better term, like a dough ball or something.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to make biscuit. Okay, I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah. So I put that. Now you could use a metal bread pan. They make all kinds of bread pans. I like the silicone ones because you can pop it out after it sets up a lot easier.
Yep.
All right. So think of polenta. This is kind of how this turns out. All right, like the Italian polenta. And you let it set up after you get everything stirred up real good and just kind of cooked down a little bit. Then you pour it into this bread pan. And, I like silicone, and then let it set up overnight. Okay. Like put it in the fridge and let it set up overnight. And then you get kind of like a block once you pull that out, kind of like you just made banana bread or something. That's kind of what it looks like.
Yep.
And then you can freeze it at that point. I usually use butcher paper or anything like that. The wax side, put it on the wax side so it doesn't stick, and then freeze it. And then when you get it out of the freezer, or you can do it right there fresh, is just slice pieces off, like little squares off of that block. Are you with me?
I think I am. Yes. Yep.
So, and then you fry those, maybe put a little bit of butter or some olive oil or something in a pan and just fry it up like it's a piece of Spam or something like that. You with me? So, like I said, it's really, and then you can, my mom, even if I make a batch that's a little bit, you know, she grew up eating this stuff too, being that she, you know, both sides of my family know this recipe well. So I'd make it, and some of it would just fall apart. So let's say, oh my gosh, you don't throw it away. You could kind of fry just the ponis, the little scrapple pieces of the cornmeal mush and everything, let's call that, you know, and then mix eggs in with it, and you know, you've got breakfast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a breakfast food,
yeah.
But also you could eat it just any time of day. But let's say it all falls apart on you, and I didn't make this right or whatever. It's not going to waste. You can just mix it up with some eggs.
Scramble it in with eggs, right?
And then scramble it in with eggs. Yeah, scramble some eggs in with it after it cooks, you know, and kind of crisps up a little bit, okay? I grew up eating this stuff for breakfast for years when I was with either grandparents.
Yeah.
And it just brings back home memories every time, warm memories of my childhood every time I eat it. It's one of those foods that's just like, this is my, you know, this is from my family. And another thing that I wanted to mention is the way that we made sausage in that culture. It was a whole, you know, thing. You know, my dad always joked around, if we didn't have enough meat, we'd just make another round around the oats patch, you know. For the deer that were plentiful back then, they weren't hunting for horns, they were hunting for meat. In fact, I don't even think my dad has any horns. They didn't save antlers. They didn't save them, you know, back then so much. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was more about the meat and the family connection of making sausage. So they would have a whole day of making sausage. And so the basic sausage recipe I'm going to give here is an old German one. There's still one meat market that makes it like this down in New Braunfels. They're one of my clients from my marketing agency, and they still make it like this. And it's 50-50. Okay, so a lot of people say 60-40. You're mixing in domestic pork or beef tallow or whatever for your fat, because venison typically is pretty dry, on its own, being that it's a lean meat and a wild meat. You can do the same thing with wild pork, 50-50. So let's say 50 wild pork, 50% wild pork, or 50% deer meat mixed with 50% domesticated. You could get, some pork shoulders, shoulder clods, even ends and pieces or whatever. Mix some bacon in there, and, whatever you want to do. You can just play with this, okay? Then if you want to smoke it, a little bit of saltpeter, okay? Some of us know that as sodium nitrate in the current world. The saltpeter is what it was called back in the day.
Yep.
Salt, pepper, garlic, just whatever you want to mix it up with, and then stuff it into those hog casings that we're all familiar with, the traditional sausage. And my dad would spend days just tying the knots in the sausage. And he said he had a joke that he said, been there, got that. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Use the T-shirt to cushion my fingers, because his fingers were like almost raw by the time they were done tying all the sausage for that time.
I've made enough sausage to know that. Yeah, that's a whole.
You know what I mean?
I know. I'm not a German, but I could have fit right in with him. He could have.
Yeah,
made a good.
Anybody that's made sausage knows. It's kind of like the joke I make in my marketing world is that nobody wants to know how the sausage is made, because that's kind of a nasty process. They just want to eat the sausage.
That's right.
So one of your sponsors even calls me and says, "Dustin, we need to know where the sausage is. Like, we need to make the sausage." But like it's just about results he's looking for and that kind of stuff. And I just think it's so funny that everybody uses my little thing about nobody wants to see how the sausage is made, but they just want to eat the sausage.
I get that.
A lot of work.
We're about out of time. I would though. So you grew up around New Braunfels. Fredericksburg is not all that far, is it really?
Right. Yep, about 45 minutes away.
Right in the old hill country right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, connect people with Dustin Warncke, involved in so much stuff, but how do they learn more about what you do and check you out?
I've got a link tree on both of my websites, businesswithdustin.com, all one word, and then dustinsprojects.com, all one word together as well. No apostrophes, 2 S's, dustinsprojects.com. On social media, YouTube, at Dustin's Projects, Instagram at Dustin's Projects, Facebook at Business with Dustin. I've got a link tree that has everything on there. However, I also wanted to say that I've got 2 podcasts of my own. One's a personal growth one called The Empowered Life with Dustin Spawn Warncke, and then the Best of the Outdoors. And the Best of the Outdoors is on Carbon TV, like this podcast.
Carbon TV, that's right. Well, Dustin, thanks a lot for sharing some of your heritage with us, buddy. And some tips on some food items that I'd never heard about it until you told me. So we'll get you back, from time to time and have some fun.
Well,
how about that?
Absolutely. And the last thing I want to say here real quick before we're completely out of time, if anybody has any questions, I'm easy to find. I told you how to find me. I'll send you any recipe. Okay. If you guys want the exact recipe, just email me, or, I'm easy to find on social or anywhere else you want to find me. And I don't mind sharing a little bit of country love with you from the Germans. So, I don't mind sharing these recipes. If you have any questions about, hey, am I doing this right or whatever, I'm here for you.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smoking Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smoking Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokingtex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. For seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Welcome back, friends. Our next guest is Mr. Jeff Rice. Jeff has been with us a couple of weeks giving some filming tips, He produces our show, A Sportsman's Life, that's on Carbon TV and also YouTube. So, Jeff, thank you for returning. We've got some fun talk coming up in this segment here, buddy.
Always glad to join you, my friend. Good morning.
So, what do you say? We're always talking about you being the producer of A Sportsman's Life and putting the shows together. I thought it'd be kind of fun to recap what I did just last night in the woods on a hog hunt, and how the segments that I didn't, you don't go out and just film a show. I probably sent you a total of, probably 7 or 8 different clips. Some of it staged with the camera set on a tripod at my little cabin out there behind the house. That was the opener. But a lot of it, or a good portion of it, was video filmed through that ATN Thor mounted on the little CVA centerfire, the 223. So you're going to be working with film that was set up, like an opener where I'm actually talking, but you'll also have those other little clips. Jeff, that was an exciting hunt. Tell you and our friends about it, but a friend of mine, Kenneth Shepard, down the road, I hunt on his place quite a bit. He had a giant boar. By giant, I mean, he said, Luke, I guarantee it'd weigh 225. And Kenneth has hunted hogs a lot. He lives in hogdom out there. So there's a lot of hogs. So he said, you ought to try to come over and get that thing. So that was I thought this would make an awesome show. I did not shoot the hog, but I had the hog in the big boar at 50 yards, but he was across an electric fence, and I wanted him to come under. Yeah, I know you've watched the videos, Jeff, but you're going to be able to weave in your production of the show, weave all that together, and then I guarantee you, folks, when you watch it, the way it'll unfold will be in sequence, won't it, Jeff?
Yeah, it's the magic of film editing. You're able to take clips and move them around and blend them in, and then you can put audio over the top of those if necessary. And what you've got here is a lot of great video. It's just it's real world stuff. You were out there, you had opportunities. You could have shot a hog. Watching this video, I'm going, well, Luke could have picked out any hog he wanted, but you did one thing that most people probably wouldn't have thought of, is wait till they get underneath that fence and come over where you don't have to climb over a fence, especially an electric fence. You don't want to be messing with that, so you take it as you get it. And what we've got here is a video of a bunch of hogs and you out there hunting, and great video. And unfortunately, they didn't come under that fence, so you never did get a shot. But what was really interesting was the fact that there's coyotes that were in the area, and that changes the landscape of everything when it comes to animals out there. The coyotes can they can change the what's going on out there in a heartbeat, and it looks to me like that's what happened. So you might tell our listeners what happened there.
That's true, Jeff, and that's a phenomenon that I used to not see a lot. The fact of coyotes, feeding on wild hogs, but the past 4 or 5 years here where I live in Kaufman County, which is just southeast of Dallas, I've never actually witnessed the coyotes grabbing a pig. Now, they're not going to be able to fool with a grown hog. Oh, I guess they could, but that's not the way it works. The sounder of hogs, I don't think even 3 or 4 coyotes are going to go in there and take down a big hog. But they definitely run in there, and they're almost like a military unit. They circle these hogs, run in and grab a pig and take off, and the sows run a little bit chasing. Another hog will run in and grab one of the pigs that's not guarded. So that happens, quite frequently. So what happened, and folks can, I'm sure, watch this by now, this video on A Sportsman's Life. It's not a long video. The whole thing may take you 6 or 8 minutes to watch it, but it's very interesting. The last clip, now I saw 4 or 5 coyotes come up. I didn't see them. What I saw was the whole sounder of hogs. One sow, kind of a lead sow, stopped and put her nose in the air. She was smelling. And I thought she'd smell me, is what I thought. But the way the wind was, I did not see how that could be. And it wasn't the case. But she was looking back away from me back in the woods. And I thought, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, all the hogs started looking. You can see that in the video. They all started, when a sounder of hogs gets nervous, they don't always just flee, but they start milling around and acting nervous. And that's what happened to this. There's probably, there's 20 hogs, 15 or 20. They were just across that electric fence. So I could have shot any of those. They were very close. But anyway, these hogs started milling around, and then the last clip, if you look close, well, it shows. I didn't do the best job of getting the thermal video, but it shows what's going on. There were 2 or 3 coyotes that came out, and those were coyotes in the back. You can just tell they were canines the way they were moving, long tail, They came out, and then the hogs had already moved away from me. They were probably 75 yards away, the whole sounder, looking back. And then they didn't just run helter-skelter. They just started moving out. And here comes these coyotes behind them in kind of a formation. So I would just love to know what transpired, because, of course, they went out of the range of vision there back through those trees in the brush. But you just wonder if they stayed with them or trailed them or whatever. But coyotes right now, people, I really do know they knock a dent in our feral hogs, Jeff. I've witnessed it and seen it around here close by,
Oh, absolutely. They'll put a dent in the population of deer, hogs, everything. They're crafty little critters, but certainly in that video, I did not see any piglets from what I could tell.
I didn't.
And the reason may be some of them may have been picked off by coyotes, and the piglets are going to be a little easier picking unless mama's around, of course. a big sow chasing down a coyote. I wouldn't want to be that coyote.
Oh,
but that's what they do. They'll try to pick off a little one and
yeah.
grab and run, if you will, kind of thing.
Yeah, Kenneth, my buddy, actually had some cell phone footage of that happening. One of these, if I keep kicking around out here with the thermal, where I do live in an area with lots of hogs, but they're wild hogs are a lot smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. I think the old misnomer about them being half blind, I know, and you know, Jeff, that's not true. Yeah, maybe they don't have the eyesight of a hawk, but I have seen hogs from, I was down at Mark Billet's one time, and the from his place to the dam of his lake is a good 500 yards, but it's an open field of view. There was some hogs out there. He baited the top of that dam with some corn. We were going to hunt it with thermal that night. And he says, "Watch this, Luke." And anyway, the hogs were up there feeding, and they could, clear line of sight back to the camp house where we were. He took a white T-shirt, and the hogs were, busy doing what hogs do, eating and snorting around there. And he started waving that T-shirt. One of those hogs spotted him at that distance. And Mark, who's hunted wild hogs, he owns B&C Outfitters down in near Groveton, near Crockett, in the woods, piney woods of East Texas, folks. And Mark probably knows, it's hunted hogs more than anybody I know. He says, "Luke, hogs can see really well, but you think about a hog, their eyes on a big boar are not going to be over 30 inches off the ground. So they're in cover a lot of times, It's not like a deer with his head up and can look around. So they literally, they can't see a lot because of being low to the ground. So I think that's a lot of it with hogs, Mark. Jeff,
Yeah, definitely. I in my years, and I know we've hunted hogs for years as well, and you learn a lot when you hunt and just watch the animals. I mean, it's a learning experience, and I can tell you firsthand, movement is what they pick up on. Mm-hmm. They may not see well. I mean, I've spot and stalked, walked within 20, maybe 15 yards of a hog and shot it with bow and arrow. But you're moving very slow, and even with then, they'll look right at you. But if you don't move, you might get away. You might get away with it. But if they smell you, it's over. I mean, their nose is their number one defense. And I mean, I've had them actually come up and sniff like the ground where I just walked, an hour ago, and they back away and they turn and they run. They smell my footprints.
Oh, I've had it happen many, many times. That's right. They are they're scent, and of course, there's not really, if you play the wind when you're hunting hogs, and now another way to hunt hogs that I really have grown to enjoy is a big bore air gun with a thermal scope, and this is a run and gun type deal. We're not shooting hogs running across the field. I don't mean it like that, but spot them with the use of thermal. You need a good wind. You need the more wind, the better on this hunting. But then get downwind with, I use that Air Force air gun Texan, and I've used it a lot in the past. And then the Tex Rex, that big 51 caliber, I've just got it. I want to start using it for that. But sneak up downwind, and if the wind's blowing from the hogs to you, and it's making noise, the wind's rustling leaves and blowing grass around, weeds around. So the hogs are busy rooting and all that. You can sneak up. I've snuck up close, with bows too in the past. So yeah, that's another fun way to hunt them. Jeff, I wish we had a lot more time. Could you get me talking about hogs with you? We could spend probably 7 or 8 hours talking about them. But invite people to watch A Sportsman's Life. And this segment here, you can watch it about the thermal hog hunt, but a lot of other fun stuff. Tell folks how to find us.
Yeah, sure. Join us each week. You can go to YouTube and just type in The Sportsman's Life in the little search engine. It's going to pull us right up, and you can watch us there. We have a new episode each week. And you can go to carbontv.com. That's a streaming network, and of course our show is on there as well. And of course you can find it just as easy as well. Just type in A Sportsman's Life under shows. It'll bring you right to there. And again, we have a fresh material each week, and it's fun and exciting adventures. And really, it's real world outdoors. What you're going to see isn't staged. It isn't. I mean, like Luke's hunt last night. I mean, he went out, did the whole thing, didn't shoot a hog. But you know what? That's how it is sometimes. And it's real world outdoors. And come join us. Love to have you and see you out there in the field. So.
In the great outdoors, that's right.
The great outdoors, buddy. You betcha.
We do have time for one last bit of information. Okay, we have an outdoor event coming up in Seagoville, Texas, which is just southeast of downtown. It's about 20 miles southeast of Dallas, right on Highway 175 in Seagoville. We'll tell you a lot more about it, but Larry Weishuhn will be with us. Jeff will be there. A lot of their good friends, some fishing guides, hunting guides. We're going to have some free barbecue. It's at the Dash for Cash pawn shop there. They've got a nice lot right next to it, and we're going to do some cooking and we're going to call it the celebration of the outdoors. Jeff, that will be the 8th of November right there in Seagoville, Texas. We'll tell them more about it later. Thank you so much for being with us, and let's try to plan us a hunt, Jeff. What do you say?
Let's do it.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramid Air. The website is PYRAMYD, pyramidair.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember pyramidair.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultramatic Feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultramatic Feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder. And then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultramatic Feeders, you could go online to ultramaticfeeders.com.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and Time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. Kubi's Wild Game Processing and Kubi's Restaurant in Dallas, and Vineyard Max, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net.
Well, good morning, folks, and everybody out there in Radio Land. This is Bill Carey, the old man at Striper Express. This morning, our good buddy Luke has asked me to open up our little radio segment, and we fixed to talk some fishing. Good morning, Luke.
Good morning, Bill. What a job, man. You're going to have to, I think you might hire out as an announcer somewhere. Well, that's a good opener, and we are going to do that. Folks, you know who it is. He introduced the show, the segment. Bill Carey, Striper Express. Bill, it's fall, man. I tell you what, I'm ready to not only talk about striper fishing, but I'm ready to do some of it. Tell me, the pattern now, what's going on.
Well, it takes forever to cool down, but the water's cooled enough where I've got bait in the shallows and the fish follow. So we are in our fall pattern topwater. That's where we get up on the banks, just like bass fishermen. We always find a place where there's easy access for the fish to move up and down off that shallow structure. Like we just drive on the roads. We have our habits of how we get on and off things. And we get out there and we blind cast those. And oh my goodness gracious, it's been so much fun. Anytime that plug is in the water, you're in the strike zone.
Bill, when I know the gulls, well, they started coming back several weeks ago, but is there much of that started, the schooling action with the gulls hovering over now?
Yeah. The boys will tell me, say, they're coming in just passels of them, just bunches of birds coming in. Every time we have a cool morning or it's cool north of here they come. We never have figured out where they come from, but they come here to eat. We did figure that out, didn't we?
That's an absolute fact. Years ago. Yeah, that would be, I've got a buddy that's an ornithologist. We need to pick his brain. The gulls, you'd think they would come from the coast, I don't know. I mean, that's where gulls are, saltwater, but also, I'll tell you something else too. Landfills in the sun, those gulls flock to landfills. So maybe, who knows, we don't really care too much where they come from. We're just glad they're here.
Yeah, let's explain. Let me tell the people what this is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Folks, we have thousands of seagulls that migrate here and spend the winter. Lake Texoma has got tons of bait, and the food forage is shad. And we've got so much. And, they say, can you have too much? Well, we got a lot of mouths to feed. So these birds come in. The fish are schooling fish. They find bait, and they push it to the surface. These birds have phenomenal eyesight, and they see that sparkling in the water, and they come in. And that bait can run, but it can't hide right there. So the birds dip the bait out, and we set up, and we drift through them. And you might find fish that are from 5 foot below the boat all the way down to 30, 40 foot thick. So we just tell people we take a 3/4 ounce jig with a white glow sassy shad. And I tell the people, don't throw it over the moon, just get it out there and count to 5. Keep your thumb near the spool as that fish hits on the fall, cram it in gear. And then just make a slow retrieve. And, buddy, they are feeding and they are hungry.
Yeah, that's the key. And it's easy to say, but sometimes it's hard to do in practice, when you make a cast and the reel is in free spool, obviously. But when they hit, I mean, you'll feel a little tick. You won't feel the hard strike like you'll feel if the reel is engaged and you got a tight line. The bait's falling. But a lot of times, if our friends don't pick up any more tips out of today's visit, this is a good one, isn't it, Bill? Stay in contact, and when you'll feel that tick or that tap, not like you'd feel it if you was tight line, but as soon as you do, crank hard on that reel and then jerk back, and you You might have a good one right there. That is a good tip, Bill. It really is.
Yeah, boy, they fight good when you set that hook. You go, whoa! I've seen many rods rap against the gunnel of the boat. And boom, there's a good one.
That's right. Now, let's see, soft plastics with jigs. Jig heads now.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yep, top water, first light, depending on cloud cover, we get an hour to an hour and a half of it. I tell people, you bring me threatening rain and a good chop on the water, and we can throw them top waters the whole morning. But then we usually switch over, get those binoculars out, find a group of birds, and go get it on them and finish the morning. It gets so much fun. You quit measuring them and just start tossing them back when you catch too many,
I know. That's the thing about Texoma is the limit, biggest limit around, you can catch a bunch of them. Well, Bill, we've been a little wordy on some of our guests today. We've went a little bit over on our time, but I did want to get you on today and talk about striper fishing. And something that we do have time to mention is I alluded to this earlier in the show, but in Seagoville, Texas, which is about 20 miles southeast on Highway 175 out of Dallas, Seagoville, Texas, November the 8th. You're going to be with us at it's called the Easy, what is it called? It's a pawn shop, but Dash for Cash pawn shop. It's good old boy. Gotcha. Randy runs it, and it's going to be a celebration of the outdoors. I'll take credit for it. It was my idea. Randy said, I'd like to he's a big outdoor person. He said, I'd like to do something with you outdoor. I said, let's have an event. He's got a pawn shop, and then he's got a fenced in, it's asphalt, but a fence right adjacent to it, a big area there. And we're going to have Larry Weishuhn's going to be there. You're going to be there. We're going to round up a few more hunting and fishing guides and just some. I know for a fact there's a core group. It's a whole bunch of fun that's going to be there. And barbecue, we're going to have some free barbecue. And Bill, I've got to bring that old coffee pot and have it for you if nobody else, right? Will do.
You bet.
But folks, if you're up, we'll talk about it much more. But if you're up in the Dallas area, like I say, Seagoville, it's just east of Dallas. Actually, you can check it out on your GPS, 133 Hall Street. 133 Hall Street in Seagoville, Seagoville. And we've got plenty of time to plan for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, Bill. I'm sure glad you can make it, man.
You betcha. I wouldn't miss it.
All right. Well, thanks for thanks for that great introduction. You may have a side gig going on as a introducer. Thank you, Bill. And folks, we're out of time for today's show. Bill's he does an awesome job keeping everybody tuned in on the striper fishing. You might understand I like to catch stripers. It's called Catfish Radio, but yeah, I'll catch. But the problem with me, Bill, is I'll catch anything from a carp to a shark. I like to That's fish. Right. I like to fish up there with you. StriperExpress.com. That's how you track Mr. Carey down. Bill, we'll try to get you back on next week and see what's going on. How about it?
All right.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring.